So today is 3/17/17. Happy St. Patrick's Day. We've talked about this stuff even before I draw it in. You know what it is. What is it?
DNA.
DNA, sure enough. So we talked about it. Do you remember what it stands for?
Something ribonucleic acid.
Oh, deoxyribonucleic acid. That's pretty good, actually. Not bad at all. I'll take it. Deoxyribonucleic acid, yes. And deoxyribonucleic acid is this DNA, this mystical stuff, which makes you what you are, makes you look like you do. And just for a little bit of review, you've got those sugar backbones, sugar phosphate molecules here, because these are all made up of little tiny atoms. And then, do you remember what those pairs are called? It's been a while. We did this with bacteria way back in the beginning of the year. Remember what those little pairs are called? Something pairs. Two words here. Base pairs? Does that sound familiar? So we can call them base pairs. We can also call them nucleotide pairs. So let's see. Sugar backbone. And then these little guys are nucleotides or bases. Okay, so this is the stuff that makes you what you are. And what does the DNA actually allow your body to do? Do you remember this? Build what? We practiced these. Build proteins, yeah. So this whole thing, DNA, it provides a blueprint that allows protein building, protein construction. And there are little pieces of that DNA that code for specific proteins. Okay, easy enough. Now, what does DNA look like? Okay, you said, Moser, it's a twisted ladder. Duh, it's right there. It's got two sugar backbones. It's got a lot of rungs between it. But it's a really crazy long molecule. I don't know if you remember us talking about that. We could kind of keep doing this. And this thing is incredibly long. Like in every cell in your body, there are miles of DNA. How do you fit that much stuff into a small space? Ooh, I know. So I tried to fit all my DNA in this little box, and it really doesn't work. It doesn't fit. I can't close the pencil sharpener. Maybe I could jam it in further. But what's a bigger problem is the fact that how do you make proteins from DNA? Do you remember this from when we talked about this in the bacterial unit? Well, you need to get one little specific chunk of the DNA called a gene and get just that little chunk and unzip it and read the code and create the RNA and then put together the amino acids. Is it going to be easy to access one specific little chunk of DNA when it's all shoved in here like a bunch of spaghetti? No. So there has to be some other way to keep this organized and neat in those small containers that are in your body called cells. In fact, there is. And that way to keep it neat, yeah, I have tangled this into such a mess I can't even untangle it. And that's kind of what would happen if we just jammed your DNA down into the nucleolus, which is the little tiny center of the nucleus, or into the nucleus. It would be impossible to ever get it untangled. It would be a disaster. Well, what's interesting is that in the body, in cells, as a matter of fact, that DNA is very neatly contained in a structure. And I'm going to kind of mimic that structure here. That structure, anybody know what that structure is called? We talked about it a little bit, but not much. Somebody mentioned it in the thing. What do you think that structure is called? Neatly contains all the DNA in your cells. The DNA is very nicely wrapped around a bunch of proteins. Of course, we don't tear off DNA like that, but, you know, for my purposes here. And that's a whole lot easier to manage. So that nice, neat, I mean, I didn't do as beautiful a job as perhaps I could have, but that I would reckon to bet that even if we took all of the yarn that I had here, but we neatly wrapped it all up in these things, we could probably fit it all in the pencil sharpener, no problem. We could fold this up, and then we could unfold it, and we could get to one little specific part of the DNA, and it doesn't get tangled. You know what this is called? This is called a chromosome. And a chromosome is just a way of storing your DNA neatly in every cell in your body. Except you don't just have one chromosome. A few people use the number. You know how many you have? 46. Yeah, there's a company, I hear their ads on the radio every morning because I listen to WYSU on the way in, 23andMe. You have 23 pairs of chromosomes for a total of 46. And you got 23 of those from yo mama. You got 23 of those from yo papa. And should you reproduce, you will only ever get to pass on, yes, I find it hilarious to say yo mama, yo papa when we're doing genetics. I don't know why, it's because I'm a 12-year-old at heart. So just bear with me. My inner 12-year-old is alive and well, I assure you. If you reproduce, you get to pass on 23 of your chromosomes. You do not get to pass on all of them. Which 23? We don't know. We're going to talk about that. That's random assortment. So, what I'm going to have you do right now, actually, is make your own chromosome. Humph. Still working on making your other copy of your chromosome, but most of you have got this lovely little pair of chromosomes. And we have, and I think we said this one was the maternal chromosome. The maternal chromosome, of course, is the one you got from yo mama. The paternal chromosome is the one you got from yo papa. So you've got one of each chromosome from each parent, and if you reproduce, you get to give away one copy of each of your chromosomes. Humans have chromosomes numbered 1 through 23, and you get 2 of each chromosome. So you have 2 copies of number 1, 2 copies of number 2, 2 copies of number 3, 2 copies, you get the picture. And that makes up a total of 46. We can actually take a picture of this. So if we take a picture of this, the picture that we have here is called a karyotype. And that's not one of your vocabulary words. You don't have to know it. But for some of you, it's an interesting idea. And that shows both chromosomes, the pair, at each of those positions. So the first chromosome, chromosome 2, chromosome 3, chromosome 4. And in each of those cases, one of those copies is the maternal chromosome, and one of those copies is the paternal chromosome. And there are a certain number of genes on every single chromosome, which means for every gene that your body is made up of, you get 2 copies. It's convenient. With some exceptions for guys, but we'll talk about those in a little bit. So that is your chromosomes. We're going to stop here. Okay. On Monday, we're going to talk a little bit more about what those chromosomes are called, how they function differently, and we're going to kind of go on from there to start introducing the idea of genetic inheritance and genetic inheritance patterns. So that's it. You will probably have a brief recall quiz on Monday. And other than that, go see the play this weekend.